Hello and welcome to the show with reviews. We're in season 4 now, which means changes are brewing. There's a new set. It's kind of like the old set, but different. We got a wooden glossy table now. It's beautiful. And with it also comes a format change. In the past, we would review 3 comics from current Marvel or current DC or just current comics. But because I'm always behind, I figured we should make a change on the book that we review. So the way that I find the book, and it is going to be a complete book, a trade or a manga, or a full thing basically, a physical thing that you can buy on Amazon or in a store, not a single issue, just a full story, full trade, whatever. The way that I'm going to be finding it will be different each time depending on maybe user suggestions or just things that I think of, and because no one knew about this idea, I decided to try it out with going on Amazon and looking at the best seller of the week. So let's go do that and figure out what book we're reading.
Alright, we're here on Amazon.com to find our first comic book to review. I don't know what the hell it is. Comics and graphic novels. New releases. RWBY. I didn't even know that there was a RWBY book. Why couldn't this be the number one? Number one bestseller in fantasy manga. Fun fact, I hate RWBY, so this'll be fun. Add to cart.
Okay, it's here. I've read it. I have thumbed through RWBY, the manga, not the anime, the manga adaptation by Shiro Miwa. Let's go with that, Shiro Miwa. Overall, not a fan, so let's get into why, starting with kind of a quick summary of the plot. Honestly, there's really not much in the way of plot. The back of the book says, RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang are students at Beacon Academy, learning to protect the world of Remnant from the fearsome Grimm. That does happen. This quick summary does take place in this manga, but there's really no reason why. Things just kind of happen here. For example, we start by being thrown into Remnant, the world, and we see RWBY fighting a bunch of Grimm. And then we cut to the rest of the characters, they introduce themselves, and then a bunch of school drama ensues, which results in a fight that no one really cares about, and then that's all over, just suddenly. Just it's done. No more school. The next 6 or so chapters are dedicated to kind of backstory origins for each of the characters on Team RWBY, and none of it has any bearing on the actual plot of the story. It just feels like backups or zero issues for their individual solo series to get it started. I don't know why it's there, it's just there. According to the Amazon page, these backstories aren't in the show, which I guess that's cool, but at the same time, it's just kind of shoved in here in the middle of the plot, and it's real jarring and confusing. I don't know why it's there. After that nonsense, we cut seemingly back to the present with another school team, JNPR, who is deciding whether or not they want to go fight a big Grimm creature before RWBY joins up with them so they can get more experience or something. They decide that yes, they will go fight the big monster, who apparently has been placed there by a mysterious big bad guy who never shows up again. He's just there for, I guess, sequel bait, which, as far as I know, we're not getting. JNPR starts to struggle, Team RWBY shows up, and with their powers combined, they defeat the beast. Cut to a pedophilia joke, and the book ends. Most of this plot seems like snippets from the actual show that I guess would excite viewers or fans of the original show, the original anime, but for someone brand new, it has no substance. Nothing. There's nothing here for me, is what it seems like. It's just a bunch of confusing stories that are shoved into this book that are supposed to be a continuous thing. I don't know. It's very strange. I feel like, honestly, if the first couple chapters were packaged as their own book, and then the backstories were packaged as their own book, and then the last fight with JNPR and RWBY was packaged as their own book, that would probably be better. But because they're all like smushed in the same thing and there's no divide between the two, just cuts to each story with just immediately, it's very confusing and bad. Moving on to the writing of this manga, again, It's not great, it just feels very awkward and clunky for the most part. Miwa really needs to learn how to show, not tell. There's a lot of exposition here that makes no sense and isn't natural for the characters to say. The writing honestly can be summed up by the fact that Miwa isn't a writer. He's primarily an artist, as far as I know. And that's not to say he can't write well. I mean, he didn't write well in this book, but that being said, I'm sure he could do better in the future. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with the writing. For example, there are pages of exposition that are just thrown in there that break up the flow of the book. Even in the last chapter, during a fight scene, of all things, there's like 2 or 3 pages of exposition for RWBY that's just thrown in there for no reason. It completely interrupts the flow, completely destroys pacing, and it's just there. It honestly feels like the pages are out of order sometimes, like it's a printing error or something, which I highly doubt it is, but still, that's what it feels like, which is not a compliment. As far as the actual characters themselves are concerned, almost all of them are completely interchangeable and don't have their own personalities. All the girls are confident and cutesy, and all the guys are weak and anxious. It's very strange. Honestly, the only character that stands out to me was Blake, and that's just because she's not the girl archetype that they have set up in the book. And from what I've seen in the show, it is the same thing. As far as adapting the characters goes, Miwa did it great. They're just not great characters. The archetypes themselves aren't even inherently bad. It's just when every single character is that one archetype, it gets confusing when you're trying to distinguish between each character, especially in a manga with no color, which I'll get back to. Honestly, the only reason I knew RWBY was the main character is because she's on the cover. Other than that, she's kind of the center of attention in scenes, which, yeah, fair, that kind of leads her to being the protagonist or the main character, but at the same time, Miwa spectacularly fails that by making all the other characters basically the same amount of import that RWBY has. It feels like it's written as an ensemble, but there was corporate mandate that was like, no, RWBY's the main character, you must make RWBY the main character. There's also lots of bad tropes used in the character origins and just the motivations for what's happening in the book. It's the whole, we're the best and nothing can stop us. It's kind of like Team RWBY is just, as a whole, collectively a Mary Sue. So yeah, that's the writing. It's not great. Let's move on to the art, which is better? The art's fine, I guess. It falls prey to all of the problems that typical anime/manga art style have. The huge boobs that don't obey the laws of physics, everything being over the top and not making much sense, etc. Creates a huge problem of not knowing what the hell is going on in each page, especially with the lack of color, which is backed up by the first few pages, which are in color for some reason, and they look beautiful, and you can tell what's going on, and there's backgrounds suddenly. There's no backgrounds in the non-color stuff. I don't know what's happening. This whole book should have just been in color. Also, one more tiny nitpick. There are certain points in the book where there's just nothing drawn. It's just text bubbles with words in them, which I assume is to speed up release schedule, but I honestly would have preferred just repeating a panel or making a panel bigger or something. Just not nothing. Don't put nothing. But yeah, that's RWBY. Nothing happens, everything sucks, and it should have been in color. Let me know what you thought of this new format in the comments. I'm sure you RWBY fans will yell at me for this. I know there's plenty of you. I'm sorry, it's not my thing. If you have any suggestions for how I should come across finding new books for this series, let me know. That'd be great. That all being said, thanks for watching. RWBY fucking sucks. Shitty book. It's a bad book. It's bad.